each other more.
Yes, we do. Well, right now, I'm coming on the air. We're coming on the air. We're recording. So, hi, I'm Scarlett Johnson, and this is Unleashed, presented by Moms for Liberty. And I'm with my friend, guest Meg Brock. And we're going to discuss her article. But I decided to press record right now just because we were talking about some really interesting things that I think a lot of moms and women do talk about. And we're talking about working out and body image and how much is too much, especially when you have daughters. Because Meg, you have a daughter, I have four
Mhm,
daughters.
mhm.
And all I hear from my teenage daughters is, oh, I look fat, or I can't wear the, they're always struggling with their body image. It doesn't matter how thin they are. They feel too short, too tall, too fat, too skinny. Their hair's too
Mhm.
curly, too straight. It's always something. So what you were saying, that sometimes you look in the mirror and you're criticizing yourself, because I think women just do that.
Just do
How
it.
long? I 12 years old, 13 years old. I remember in the girls' bathroom, and all the girls lined up. Oh my God, my hair is so ugly. Oh, no, no, no.
Mhm,
I've got pimples. Oh no, I'm so lined up, all of them, each one criticizing
mhm.
themselves. And someone had to say, no, 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 you look so pretty.
Mhm. No, I remember that. I
It's just,
remember, I mean, this was in the 90s. I grew up in the 90s where it was the Kate Moss era. So there was all that pressure. We talk about social contagions to be super skinny. But I remember putting myself on my first diet at age 11. And I think about that. I think, oh my gosh, that is just so, so sad. So I do feel like as a woman, as a now a middle-aged woman, very aware of the choices that I'm making and what am I teaching my daughter and what am I exemplifying for her? And am I really trying to, as a woman, show her what it's like to be confident and to take care of yourself, but also not to be chasing some crazy standard of beauty? Because you're right, as women, we kind of spend our whole lives sometimes chasing these things and not just enjoying our femininity and just enjoying who we are as people beyond the surface of beauty.
yeah, yeah. I like with my hair, your hair starts to go gray, you start dyeing it, and then you realize like how often you have to dye your roots. It's such a pain in the butt. Um, and how what's too much,
Yeah.
and I'm middle-aged too, growing up through the 90s. I do Kate Moss, so skinny. I remember going on a diet of crackers and water, like
Mhm.
saltine crackers and
It's
water.
so sad when you think about how young, when you think about how young you are, if you just tell your younger self, like, girlfriend, you're great. Like, you don't do this to yourself. This is not health. This is not healthy, you know?
Yeah, and then of course, I mean, of course you still like, that didn't last very long, but
Mhm.
just that pressure to feel like, because so super skinny, and now supermodels, they're just bizarre. They're just then because I also remember there was Cindy Crawford, there
Mhm.
was the Claudia Schiffer, like they were really pretty and more feminine.
Mhm.
And that era,
Mhm.
that was like, I think that was the supermodel, like Naomi Campbell. That was like the
Mhm.
Christy Turlington. That was the real supermodel era.
Mhm.
Now there aren't any names. You can't name a
Mhm.
model.
Mhm.
I don't know the name of a single model. They actually look very bizarre. It looks like a Halloween haunted house show when they have these Milan, Paris shows. Like, women don't, it's weird, and I
Yeah,
don't
we
know
just
what that's.
gotta get to the middle. Hopefully we
Yes.
raise girls who are feminine and strong and can be confident in who they are. And I think as women, the whole hair, I am starting to go gray. I haven't dyed my hair yet because I've been thinking about it literally since I was in my 20s, because I think I watched my mom, who went gray pretty early, spend like hours and hours of her life dyeing her hair. And I always thought, oh my gosh, that looks terrible. And so I just haven't, yeah, I'm not saying I won't ever, but it is interesting, these things that we just kind of accept as kind of continuum of now we have, I mean, now you hear about girls who are in their 20s getting their face Botox. And I just think, oh my gosh, they're these
Oh,
beautiful girls who are just so naturally pretty. I'm like, why are you doing that to your face? You're gorgeous without any of that. So it is really interesting. And I think in this culture where then we have maybe we've gone too far from like super skinny to like having like, saying obesity is healthy, which it's not. Really, ultimately, what we want to do is be healthy and just normal and take care of ourselves and not have these extremes. But we are living in a culture that is gravitating towards extremes right now. So that's kind of an uncharted territory right now. Just trying to
Yeah,
be normal.
yeah, yeah, and I think everyone like healthy, athletic, but not too, to be. That's what's I think attractive to men. But even when I look around and you think, oh, she looks so good, it's someone who looks healthy,
Mhm.
not like too skinny, and I'm like, that's so skinny, or obese, and you're like, oh, God, I worry like about a lot of different health problems that could happen with that.
Mhm.
So I think healthy is ideal and everything in moderation. A lot of doctors in my family, and the number one rule is no extreme diets. You
Mhm.
know you intuitively know you should have some protein, you should have some dairy, you should try and eat vegetables raw, you should try fresh. We know what to
Mhm.
do. It's just it's we're fast paced things. We don't like to take a lot of time anymore. And I think eating healthy, exercising, all like not having as much stress, a lot of these things mean time, and you have to be thoughtful. And so,
Mhm.
but we'll talk about your article. It does kind of relate to this discussion because a lot of it is about, I think, maybe not your article, but the voting that happened this Tuesday. Women decidedly came out in New York, New Jersey, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and some other states. Decidedly, they came out voting for Democrats, and even men. A lot of those good numbers that we saw for Trump in 2024 flipped in certain counties, and that's what I saw. That's what concerned me, was that in counties that were won by Trump, um, that even that young male vote really dissipated, and a lot of people that voted for Trump did not vote in
Mhm.
for governor's races or other things. But why don't you talk a little bit, about your article and what you found?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is in the Philadelphia suburbs, and it's a true purple county. It's a swing county and a swing state. And all throughout the election last year, there was quite a bit of attention that was paid to it because it really is a bellwether. And it was interesting. I mean, for me, like you, I was never really involved or I say involved or knowledgeable in any way about local government or about local politics or any of that. I just wasn't really interested. And then COVID was a game changer, as I know for you and I'm sure many of your audience, where you were kind of like, wait a second, maybe I should care about these things. So it was just interesting back in 2021 in Bucks. So Bucks is a county that the Philadelphia collar counties, which are 4 counties that surrounded the suburbs, were really Republican strongholds till the 2010s, and it was in the Obama years where they won by one. Well, one flipped and then three flipped in 2019, which was really a result in part of the energy, the I would say anti-Trump, anti-MAGA energy from Democrats who are also shifting very far to the left. And so, in Bucks in 2021, after a 2019 flip to blue, went fully red because of pushback from COVID that really drove out Republican voters. And I remember seeing there was 13 school districts in the county, and every district just naturally had this kind of little grassroots huddle of parents that was formed really separately from anything political. Like it wasn't associated necessarily with the Republican Party. It was a coalition of just parents who were very concerned about school mitigation, and Democrats, independents, Republicans all really came together and ultimately voted more for Republicans, I think, because Republicans were the anti were,
Yep.
anti-shutdown or ready to kind of drop COVID at that point. And so then in 2023, Bucks went blue again, in 2024 and went to Trump, and now in 2025 it just went totally blue on Tuesday night. So it's fascinating because you hear people on the online, right, if you will, talk about how the culture war is over or we won. I think maybe I know with like the gender ideology issue, which is what I'm very much focused on. I feel like there are a lot of people who kind of perceive it as being over because well, Trump won, he signed an executive order, and I think what maybe one of the big takeaways from Tuesday's election is that the culture war is still raging, particularly in swing states and swing counties like Bucks County.
So a couple points. What you said about the organic nature of what happened during COVID, because I can attest to that. Because we formed a group whose name was so long. It was like
Mhm.
the parents that we had this super long name, like and we so it was, you could tell it was natural because it wasn't, it wasn't a good hook. We were just like the parents that support, our school district, blah blah blah. So that was everywhere. Everywhere,
Mhm.
like in little areas, people formed groups, maybe even just around their school district.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then the groups, I know in my area, the groups came together a little bit, and it was like by county or, a couple school districts together. And we supported each other going to, hey,
Mhm.
I'll go to your school board meeting if you come to mine, and we'll show up en masse.
Mhm.
And when we had protest rallies, we'd have, our whole North Shore area. It was so organic. It wasn't at all related to the GOP. It wasn't related to any grassroots organization. It was
Mhm.
completely organic. And so no one at first knew what to make of it. I don't think the media was really prepared for it.
Mhm.
And so we kind of caught the whole
Mhm.
system by surprise, and we
Mhm.
won. And the unions didn't take us seriously, and they had no way to know what was going to happen. I think that they were totally blown away. They were blown
Mhm.
away when we recalled 4 school board members. They were
Mhm.
laughing at us until we did it.
Mhm.
So, we had the element of surprise,
Mhm.
and the enemy, those, and I think those that are, um, woke and seeped in left-wing dogma and ideology, and they just, they can't see the forest through the trees. They they weren't ready for us, but then they did get ready, and they developed a message, and then they got very good at messaging against us. Book banners. Um, they made us. They got a hold of the narrative for a little while, and were able to fight back as we uh, in locally. But it's not easy, especially when the SPLC starts to label you as a hate group in 2022. And
Mhm.
that's for Moms for Liberty. We were labeled as a hate group, and a lot of other organizations were labeled as hate groups. And now we may sort of think, oh, yeah, they're calling you a hate group. So what? 2022, it was a big, huge deal because the
Mhm.
Southern Poverty Law Center still had a lot of gravitas. And it was really hard. And to this day, it's not easy to fight that label.
Mhm.
So what you said there, that's one element for sure. But I wanna ask about, you said 2024 bucks went for Trump.
Mhm.
Do you have in your article, and I'll look, what were those numbers, and what was the change?
I think it was so I mean in presidential elections if you go through I mean there's always a higher turnout. So there was I believe it was like an 81 over 81% voter turnout in 2024 versus a 49% voter turnout that happened this week. Now that's not like broken down to in terms of like voters affiliations, but that's just general turnout. And I think at least what happened in Bucks is that there were a lot of outside organizations that flooded the county in 2024 to really help get out the vote. I mean, something that I've observed or just did observe over the past 5 years, which was interesting to me, is that I think that the left has a lot more infrastructure on the ground, a lot more local infrastructure, and has invested a lot more into local elections than the right. in 2023, when school boards started flipping back to Democrat control, or to Democrat control for the first time, honestly, there were like hundreds of thousands of dollars that were invested in school board races. And I remember talking to friends who had been involved in school board, way before COVID, or just 5 years before COVID, and they were like, "Yeah, a typical school board campaign would be a couple $100." Well, now there's this new precedent where thousands of dollars have been spent to take over these school boards, and it's really it's a very, it makes for an interesting scene locally, particularly if one side is investing and the other side's not really investing on local elections. It's going to be really difficult to win those. But then there's I mean, for example, in Bucks last year, the county commissioners went totally viral because they were doing a recount, or trying to count for the Senate race, statewide Senate race. And one of the commissioners, the two commissioners who were Democrat and in charge, said at a public meeting, like, voted to violate state election law openly. and
Yep.
and it went totally viral. But I think that's the kind of stuff that really, when you think about how do local politics, how do they impact federal politics? We think a lot about federal politics impacting local, but I think that was a great example of how here's this critical swing county. We're talking about federal politics, and the local elections were absolutely impacting the policies of voters and whether or not the election was going to have integrity.
That's a good point. And I'm pulling up your Bucks County voter registration, and here Republicans outnumber Democrats, and that's pretty impressive. And then to that was 2024.
Well, that's what's
That
so interesting about this past election. So now, I mean, I think in Pennsylvania, there's a very large number of independent voters. So I think that's something that really comes into play when you think about when people are messaging. They have to, it's not enough to just wit. You have to get your party out, but you also need to get the independents on your side. But then the
Yes.
fact that there was such a large loss for the Republicans really, kind of speaks to perhaps the leadership on the ground of the Republican Party, and how it really, with the outside efforts in 2024, managed to get people to come out, but locally being unable to do that. And yeah, it's just it's a very interesting place, Bucks County. There's a lot of things you could talk about.
I think, I think it's a really good idea to talk about Bucks County, because it is a signal. There are so many counties like this all
Mhm,
across the country, particularly in these purple blue states, or states that have gone, they go back and forth. They've
mhm,
Democrat, Republican.
mhm,
Um, so Bucks County, I think, is a very interesting highlight. Looking here, the voter turnout, 49%
mhm,
for, and it was 81% in the presidential election.
mhm.
A voter turnout of 49% is actually, for
Pretty high
this,
for a
it's
municipal.
very
Yeah.
high,
Yeah.
very high.
I think a lot
My political
sorry,
science, this is very high.
I
Mhm.
think a lot of that, I mean, it's interesting to look at the trends, is because, I mean, Pennsylvania is kind of a mess with their mail-in ballot situation. So I think that the Democrats have really adapted to that a lot better than the Republicans have. And so regardless of how you feel, I mean, personally, I don't think mail-in ballots are a great way to hold elections, but that is the system that's in place. And so unfortunately, um, you have to work by within the system that you have, and I think that that probably is favoring the Democrats more at this point than the Republicans, regardless of how anyone feels about the actual system.
Now, you write that the Philadelphia suburbs, they were a stronghold for local Republicans.
Hmm.
This is true in Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan. I mean, in a lot of states that are now have blue governors, the
Hmm.
suburbs were once the stronghold. What do we know about educated suburban citizens and voters? They are the most reliable voters, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I mean,
so
yeah.
they're the high propensity voters.
Hmm.
And at one time, Republicans dominated amongst high propensity voters. And the more educated, um, it's in the past days, the more likely that they were going to vote Republican. That
Mhm.
scenario has flipped entirely,
Mhm.
entirely flipped. Suburbs are now more of a stronghold for Democrats in
Mhm.
a lot of areas, particularly in Philadelphia and Wisconsin. Not that they're not winnable, because Trump won a lot of suburbs,
Mhm.
but it is a whole different scenario where the high propensity voters now are leaning Democrat,
Mhm.
and the low propensity voters are leaning Republican. Do you
Mhm.
think that conservatives, and we have to say Democrat, Republican, because there's two parties you can vote for, okay?
Mhm.
But for conservatives, center right folks, um, is the messaging hitting them? The new makeup of who we're going to target, the MAHA movement,
Mhm.
MAGA movement, Trump, like the union, the blue collar union worker. Do
Mhm.
you think that there needs to be a recalibration of messaging for 2026 so that Republicans can win these people without Trump on the ballot?
I mean, I think coming from viewing politics as a normal person, which is what I would say
Yes.
that I
That's what I
do.
like to talk from a normal person's
I
perspective. Do you
I
feel
think, yeah, well, I
that was
think, most people, I mean, and kind of really, I touched on this in the article. I think about how so many parents were coming to school board meetings in 2021, because they were feeling something that was impacting them, was impacting their children. And then when that feeling went away, when the masks finally went away, when life went back to normal, people just went back to the normal lives and didn't really care anymore. So I think the messaging that people are going to get is whatever they're feeling and whatever's impacting them. And so when I think about right now, I mean, I think that there's a lot of people are having a hard time economically. Things are still very expensive. You go to the food store and you're like, geez, I'm paying a lot of money for food that maybe 5, 10 years ago it was very different. So I think people feel that. And I think that, in terms I think there's a lot of disconnect maybe within what happens online and what happens in normal life. And I think normal people just really want to, moms, like, you want to raise your family and you just want to be able to take care of them, and that's really the goal for a lot of people who might be a low propensity voter. So I think I don't know. I don't know that when you look at what happened in Bucks and you see it going red for Trump last year and then losing the county elections for things that are really important, like district attorney. I mean, a lot of people are consider the district attorney actually who won. It led the Bucks County Law Department to sue me 5 times, and a court ruled he acted in bad faith, in that they acted in bad faith in doing that. So that's now the person who is going to be responsible for upholding the law in the county. Like, that's a big deal. I don't know that
a
the
very
normal
big deal?
person gets that, you know?
It's a very big deal. I've just survived a lawsuit. It's a big deal if the
Mhm.
DA is willing to go after a parent like they went
Mhm.
after you.
Mhm.
Um, that it's a huge deal. Look at Jay Jones is now the Attorney General of
Mhm.
Virginia after
Mhm.
it was revealed that he texted the fantasy of children dying in the arms of their mother, his
Mhm.
opponent's wife, that their children die. He things that would you'd be done. 10 years ago, you'd be done.
And
Now
frankly,
it's
you would want anyone on either, like, any politician, I
yeah,
don't care, like, regardless of affiliation, you don't want someone saying those kind of horrific things about anybody. I mean, this is America. Like, we want to love, like, have, like, care about all Americans, it's just disgusting.
well, another Jay Jones wasn't texting like a good friend. He was texting someone that was he's a He was texting a fellow like Republican that's like, hey, I mean, he felt so comfortable
Mhm.
like saying these things, like
Mhm.
and didn't seem all that uncomfortable defending what he did, and that Abigail Spanberger just sort of was like shrugged her shoulders. Well, Orange Man bad, so who cares?
Mhm.
That's their answer for everything. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, he's a terrible person, but someone else is worse, so, vote. It's this irrational Trump derangement syndrome that affects.
Mhm.
But and there's a post here, Bucks County Democrats, pick a state race, send them money, ask how you can help. Flipping the PA House. So they were getting outside money, telling people, hey, pick this race. If you don't have, if you are a Democrat and you're living in Florida, send money to Pennsylvania. Help us
Mhm.
defeat Trump here. And
Mhm.
that's the kind of messaging they've also used in Wisconsin.
Mhm.
But I know you're on a hard step. So I would like, we'll do this again next week so you
Yeah.
talk longer. But I
Yeah.
really liked what you said at the end of this article, that maybe 49% of parents voted, but 100% of parents are going to feel the full impact
Mhm.
of policies. So
Mhm.
what's your kind of closing statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reality that I hope that more that people need to understand. And maybe even when you're not, you think about policies, you think about like what just happened in New York, like electing such a radical person to be their mayor, and you think maybe it's going to take a city like New York to really feel the full brunt of those policies, before there's a turning. But the thing that's so sad about that is that at the end of the day, it's going to harm people, and that's what you don't want. You want to see we want to create a country where everyone can thrive and where our children can thrive. And people talk a lot about the American dream right now. Well, to me, the American dream is always, it's not been about what I'm going to have or what you're going to have in your generation. It's that the generations behind you could have a better life than you if they work hard, they make good choices. And I think that's really what we're seeing kind of collapse right now. And I think there's a lot of evidence being pulled up about how the younger generations are realizing like they're not going to achieve a life that was better than their parents. And so I think, why do we, both you and I are moms who weren't involved in anything, and now we've both won lawsuits, we've written things, we've spoke at events, and I think it's a testimony that really the beautiful thing about being an American and about having your citizenship is that any person really can make a difference. And whether it's your difference is you vote in an election, you run for office, whatever that is. And I just think that is such a gift. And if we don't treasure and value that gift, we are in fear of losing it. And if not for ourselves, losing it for our kids and those behind us. And that's, in my opinion, is actually worse. So that's what I would say with that.
You have to care, and that was the tone of your whole article, like showing I mean, the title, and we'll link to it, and under the comments, because I as soon as I read it, I said we have to talk about this, because
Mm.
the real reason parents' rights took an election night clobbering. Now, there were some bright spots in Pennsylvania. There's some school board races won. Moms for Liberty endorsed candidates did win. So there's a few bright spots, but there's, it's people have to see school board races as important again,
Mhm.
beyond COVID. They have
Mhm.
to, even if you don't have a kid in the district, it matters. It
Mhm.
matters who's running your school board. It matters because you're going to pay the price. You may not have kids there, but you're paying for it through your property taxes. And
Mhm.
these are the future citizens of your community. These are
Mhm.
American citizens, and how they're being taught matters. Just
Mhm.
look at New York City. Look what happens when you indoctrinate kids into this um, lens. They view the whole world through the lens of oppression and race,
Mhm.
and cultural Marxism is the underpinning of most of their educational life. And that
Mhm.
doesn't just go away. That doesn't
Mhm.
just like, oh, I'm 21 now. Now I'm suddenly, that's a lifelong thing.
Mhm.
Um, and we've got to get a handle on it and care about it. And I guess we'll spend the next year trying to figure out how we can message better, like a lot of different groups. What can we do differently? How do we get people out to vote? So
Mhm.
that's I'm glad that you wrote this article and told the truth, even a painful truth, even something maybe we don't want to hear, but we need to. We cannot say, well, they're blue. They're blue areas. We're always going to go blue. Let's not make too big of a deal about it. Look at the numbers. And Meg provided some, but in Virginia, Virginia, that was a heavy loss. Look at the numbers. Areas that went for Trump completely flipped. People that should have come out to vote didn't. Why? These are questions we have to ask. So, well, thanks for coming on, Meg. We'll
Thanks
talk
for
some
having
more
us,
later.
Sarah. All right, thanks.
And thanks for writing. Thanks for all that you do. I love your work.
I
So you
appreciate
speak
that.
for us. You speak
Thank
for
you.
us.
Well, I
Right.
am just, we're all moms. All moms just trying to make the world better for our kids, right?
Yes. Well, you speak to the regular mom, and so I think that's what we love about you. Well,
Yeah,
bye, Meg.
thanks,
Thanks
Hillary.
a lot. We'll talk again.
All right.
Bye. Well, it's always fun talking to Meg. I know, well, I wouldn't necessarily say our conversation was fun, but it was a necessary conversation. I paused for a second and went to say goodbye to Meg, and she's like, "Oh, sorry if I was such a Debbie Downer." And I'm like, "Listen, this week we can't sugarcoat it. We can't sugarcoat it. True, these are blue areas, but you've got to dig a little deeper. And when you look county by county, wards, you can see that there were areas that Trump won overwhelmingly, and folks did not come out to vote. I would not read too much into some of that because, people don't come out to vote in the same numbers for elections like this, especially 1 year later, having just voted in November. There's a lot of fatigue, politics fatigue, and so you'd think, okay, a governor's race, that's a big deal. People will come out to vote. And when not a presidential race, yeah, the numbers aren't always so high. Now, I did say 49% seems like a great number before, but the turnout for the Youngkin race was higher. So when you compare the turnout for those races, the turnout was depressed, and the area where it was depressed were Republicans, those who voted for Trump. There was a lot more enthusiasm on the left than there was on the right. Some of that's natural. Some of that's just when you feel like you're fighting the good fight, that you're the underdog, there's a different kind of energy. We know that because during COVID 2021, Youngkin was the underdog. There was an energy, there was a passion. There were people that previously didn't care about politics that they came out and they voted. And they voted for Youngkin, and they voted down ballot. And in Pennsylvania, they voted, like she said, they flipped entire school boards. They flipped a bunch of different local offices. It was huge. It was like a big, a red wave. There was a lot of passion, and that the passion was more for Democrats when you've got a Republican in the White House and Republicans controlling the Senate and Congress. Some of that is very natural, and you can't read too much into, oh, we've got a hair on fire, we've got to change everything. No. So I do agree, take some things with a grain of salt. However, when you look at the numbers and you see a depressed turnout, people staying home, and then you see kind of flips in some of the demographics from 2024 to 25, when you see that men didn't come out and vote in the same numbers, and they didn't vote for Republicans in the same numbers, and that women that keeps shifting a different way. Women voted more for Democrats and young women for Democrats. So when you look at some of that, then you do have to think, and absolutely must, because 2026 is coming up, you have to think, what can we do differently? How can we message differently? Where should we be investing our time and energy? Great to register voters, want to continue to register voters, but we've got to get those registered voters to vote. They have got to turn in a ballot. So just registering is not enough. We've got to, like they say, chase the ballot. You've got to make sure that ballot, once you've registered somebody, you've got to build the mechanisms so that you can monitor and make sure that those ballots actually get filled and that they're sent in. Don't like the whole early voting season, but for now, that's you play the cards you have. You play the cards you're dealt. And these are the cards we're being dealt, so we've got to master how to play the hand. And so that's what we've got to do. And I know there's a lot of election issues, but saying the election's rigged and not doing and not voting, or saying my vote doesn't matter, anyone who claims to be a conservative and tells you not to vote, anyone who says, I care about this country, but I don't think you should vote, I think you should immediately stop listening to that person. I think that person is not your friend, and not a friend, not somebody who genuinely loves this country. Because if someone is telling you, hey, I love America, I am MAGA all the way, don't vote, by the way. They're not a MAGA, and they don't love America. There's some other things going on there. Maybe they're listening to the wrong people, but I would hope that Team Sanity, we've got to do a good job of making sure that people in our movement that say don't vote, that we've got to have a good counter to that. And frankly, I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. And I think some of us know who some of these influencers are. If someone is saying, trying to sow discontent, and try, just as our movement is getting started, just as we finally are going somewhere, we're developing these broad coalitions, that suddenly someone's throwing like a grenade into it, saying, hey, don't vote, we're trying, that to me, that's so unhelpful, and frankly kind of evil. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Back to school board elections matter, local races matter, statewide races matter, congressional, governor's races, but can't forget about our local government. We need to find good candidates, help them out any the way we can, and try to stay energized when it's hard. Now, this is over. This was not a good night on Tuesday for conservatives. Was not a good night for Republicans. Can't sugarcoat it. That's just the way it was. I wouldn't go hair on fire about it, but there definitely needs to be analysis and recalibration and messaging. And I think that MAGA and those who support Trump cannot rest on their laurels. They can't think, oh, we won, party. Can't do that. There's only so much that the federal government can do. You are needed in your local area, in your state, to see this this mission, see all of this across the finish line. So that's probably the best thing that I could say. And to end, I am going to quote Meg in her article. Let's get to that. Sorry. While President Trump has taken executive action to stop gender ideology and root out far left initiatives that say the saying that all politics are local still rings true. Your local school board and state government are likely to have far more sway in the day-to-day matters of your life than an executive order from the president. This was one of the hard lessons learned in the COVID era. And it motivated so many to participate in civics for the first time in 2021. While more than 50% of voters in Bucks County chose not to participate in this year's election, 100% are going to have to live with the consequences, and so were their children. Boom, mic drop. We applaud President Trump and all of the actions. We applaud Secretary Linda McMahon. We applaud the actions taken by the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Justice. There's so much work going on behind the scenes. We can't possibly even understand how hard this administration is working to fundamentally change the Department of Education and to focus on parental rights and to remove this ideological content from the federal government and to put pressure on states to comply with executive orders, to fulfill the meaning, to follow Title IX. All of that is happening. But state and local politics still matter. A lot of the work that President Trump is doing cannot be fulfilled if states are run top to bottom by Democrats who are they're fighting it every step of the way. So we have to get involved. Now, I have a feeling that there's going to be a revival. There's going to be a revival of parental rights, a revival of optimism, and a revival of that American spirit in all of these areas. Because Americans, when challenged, Americans, when they see that their way of life is on the line, boy, do they dig in and boy, do they fight back. So I do think that we're going to see a surge of parents groups forming again. I think that we've already had a lot of inquiries for starting chapters in Moms for Liberty. And I would encourage parents, start a chapter, join and become a national member. But if there isn't a chapter, start one and join this broad coalition of parents who are fighting for parental rights and fighting for the heart and soul of this country, fighting for children. That's the way that we win. We not only survived the COVID era, we had tremendous victory, and it was hard fought and it was dark times. We can do it again in Virginia, in New Jersey, in New York, in Pennsylvania. There are warriors, there are Mama Bear warriors there that are starting to put on that shield of armor and prepare for battle right now as we speak. And I'm so proud of them. And I'm so proud of the future Moms for Liberty members I have yet to meet that are now going to join because they see what's at stake. So thank you for watching. Get involved, stay involved, and fight, fight, fight for your children. Up next, I'm going to be talking to my friend Missy, and we're going to be talking about some screen time, and we're going to talk about some issues that parents are very concerned about, and we're going to talk about M4LU. So that's coming up. Thanks. Oh, actually, I'm going to pause a second. Hi, everyone. I'm here now with my friend, Missy Karwowski. I'm saying that right, right?
You got it. You got it. I know.
Oh, wow. That's what you told me. The
Yep.
director, M4L Academy. And I wanted to have her on to talk about some exciting things coming up as soon as Monday. So Missy, take it away and talk a little bit about M4L Academy and what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. We are the Academy. I like to say we're the Academy for parents, grandparents, and friends that are dedicated to fighting for the survival of America and who know or want to know why defending parental rights specifically is such an important part of that fight. Because I think sometimes it's easy for people to forget that, I don't know, we hear things like words, terms like parental rights and think, you just kind of gloss over it and don't think of how foundational that is to the fabric of our community, of our culture, of our society, of our country. And ultimately, where I see it coming down, and this is zooming back a little bit to look at the 10,000-foot view, if you will, but it's preserving the nuclear family and fighting against collectivism and communism, because that is really America's biggest enemies and what we are fighting, the ideology that we're fighting the most. So that's at the highest level. And then what we do is we dive into the different topics that impact kids, schools, and parental rights. Some of them are going to be really obvious, especially things that you'll learn about in school or you'll see the kids learning about in schools and curriculums. And some of it may not seem quite as obvious of why it would be maybe impacting parental rights or where it's touching parental rights. This month is a particularly interesting topic for me personally. My background, as you know, is in technology, all in business. So I really don't have as much, I was always politically aware of the issues, but I wasn't necessarily as involved as I thought I was. I thought I was pretty involved. So technology is very close to my heart. And what I found fascinating as I've been unpacking this are, what is our topic this month? It's ed tech in particular, education technology, data collection, and AI. We had an amazing debate at Moms for Liberty Summit talking about AI in the classroom, and we're going to be expanding on all of the technology and how it impacts kids in this month. So what you're showing here, I'm really excited about. I hope everyone will come and join me for the live stream. We're going to be featuring two amazing speakers. First is Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath. He is an educator turned neuroscientist. And I have to tell you, he is so fun to listen to. He's super engaging, really interesting. And what he talks about especially is unpacking how we learn. So why we learn the way we do, why this EdTech revolution that was promised, just these brilliant golden age scholars, right, from our kids that are the digital natives, if you will. Instead, we're not seeing that. Our kids are struggling, and there's so many areas they're struggling. So he unpacks why that is because of how we learn. The other guest that we have on Monday is Mandy Haman from Screen Strong. Their organization is incredible. They actually have curriculum that parents can bring to the school board to present as options in school for teaching about how kids' brains are impacted by screens. So I am so excited for this conversation. It's going to be great. So let me pause for a second because I could just talk about this all day. So
I'm actually really interested in this because you're right. The belief was with all of this technology, this is going to be so beneficial. kids are, it's like you're gonna have so much more time to learn more and be more efficient and to just be more productive. But we're finding the opposite, that less productive, not as engaged, not retaining as much information, struggling even psychologically. So I want to hear more from someone like him about what's happening. And when you say data collection, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about surveys in schools?
Great question, because I think a lot of us think of surveys as that first bit of where data collection is happening, especially at least those of us who are paying attention. But really, the other scary part of the data that's being collected is in the learning management systems, the school platforms. So think like PowerSchool and Canvas and these other ones that are pulling together so much more than just grades about our kids. The surveys are uploaded in there. There's biometrics that are put in there, tracking their moods. That is somewhat through surveys, so social emotional learning type of information, personal information on on the children's families. It's really scary, not to mention the overhaul behaviors on computers themselves, because a lot of these platforms, they have different educational software that is built right in or installed. It comes installed on the computers that they're rolling out, or iPads or whatever type of device. So the kids are able to access these various platforms, websites, software, etc. But a lot of those serve up ads. They are also then tracking what sort of information the child's looking up. And one of the things that we're going to unpack a little bit more in the social media month, which is next month, is how manipulative the algorithms have become, to where these big companies are able to, they have like digital twins of everybody, which that is very disturbing to think of, quite frankly. And that's why when we hear, you know how it is, right? That you like think about buying something and all of a sudden you're getting an ad for it on Facebook, right? So
Creepy.
apparently it's so creepy, and it's not necessarily even something you're talking about. It's the fact that your digital behavior is so tracked that they're able to predict what you're going to need before you even think you need it. It is insane. We're talking like Minority Report type of stuff. It's pretty wild. But think of it though, if they've got this data, behavioral data that they're tracking on little kids
Yeah.
that's 13, 14 years of data tracking, they're getting to know you pretty well. So far beyond surveys, although the surveys are really intrusive, just that.
So I have to say, my husband and I just signed my daughter up for basketball, and they have a
Okay.
new system. Like 10 minutes into it, they were asking us questions like, what's the orthodontist, the number, the address, the dentist, insurance for, like, my husband's like, why are they asking all these questions? And finally we're like, okay, we're done now. Which it was a lot of questions about us, a lot of details. And I thought, that's weird. I don't remember ever having to fill this out. Like, it was the name of the name of your physician and maybe insurance provider, but her dentist, her orthodontist, their number, their address, her optometrist. I was like, what? Like, this
That
is now getting weird.
That is pretty excessive. It makes me think of the connection as well to the whole child community schools, right? That the government's trying to push this idea that they'll be able to take care of your kid in every way. And I can't say that this is what's happening for sure, but I see them pulling in this data and maybe using that to say, what's going to be the easiest way to implement and convince people that they need to be going to our health clinics at schools. Also, I mean, that's a slightly different topic for sure that we're going to be covering in the future. But
Or marketing, some kind of marketing, like they're trying to determine, where they're going, and then maybe they'll go to that provider and say, hey, a bunch of our parents, like, we could help market something. Like there's something that they're going to do with that data. And it's not because they're worried that she could have an eye emergency. Like, I don't know, like just call, we'll be there, or call the emergency contact. I don't know if there's going to be an orthodontic emergency on the basketball court.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe if she gets punched in the face or something
I know,
or elbowed, right?
yeah, they'd go to the ER. They wouldn't say like you know, call the call the
Call the
orthodontist who only
orthodontist.
comes in 3 days a week. I mean, you only see like, yeah, parents, the struggle is real trying to arrange orthodontic appointments around their school schedule, right? I know that
Oh,
there's
I bet.
people that feel me on that.
Yes. Yeah. Any doctor's appointments, I feel are insane. Real quick, I want to talk about another event that we're going to be doing because it's coming up next week on Thursday. We have the Rhetoric for the Republic, which this is the new debate event that we're doing. This is the actual recording of it. It's recorded live in DC, and you can come. I want everyone to come. Registration is free. There's food and drinks included. We have some amazing speakers that are talking about EdTech's success or failure. Basically, has this EdTech revolution proved to be as amazing as it was supposed to be? I'm pretty excited. Our one speaker speaking against EdTech is Andy Liddell from the EdTech Law Center. And then speaking for, or more on the positive for EdTech, is Sahil Khan from Microsoft. And Microsoft is a pretty big company with a lot of fingers in the pie for EdTech. So I'm very excited to have this conversation.
That sounds great. And I wish I'm going to be at the December event. I'm unable to attend this one because I have a prior commitment, but it's really fun. And I went to the inaugural event, and I got to talk to the speakers afterwards, and they were amazing. It was such a great conversation. So I highly encourage people to attend. And if you can't attend, then we will air it at some point. But attending live, if you are in the area, I mean, and the food was amazing.
Yeah.
So there's food, there's good conversation. And if you're in the area, and CPI is a great area, so stop in and join. It's fun. And you're in the area, you know where CPI is, and you know that they do a lot of cool events. So
yeah, they're really, it is such a neat place. And you'll get a chance to talk to the speakers, ask them some questions, have some good food, get to meet other like-minded people. We will be taking questions from the audience. So I definitely would love, but we're also going to be considering some pre-screened ones as well. So if folks want to submit a question, you can email the questions to me at mforlacademy@momsforliberty.org, or there's also information at our website, mforlacademy.org. If you go check out there, you can register. It directs you over to the registration. Again, it's free. Just need to register so that we can get a good head count for it. But yeah, we're pretty excited. It's going to be a good time. And then we will be airing the recording on Monday, the 24th of November.
Okay. Monday the 24th. All right. So 5:30 to 7:30 Eastern time. If you are in the DC or surrounding area, go to CPI on Capitol Hill and attend this event live. There is great appetizers, and you'll be able to talk to like-minded people, and so you'll have some fun. So after work, stop by. If you were working in DC, one of our many friends, or if you're Moms for Liberty, we've got a lot of members that are short drive away. So come on by, and it'll be like Summit all over.
Yeah, that'll be good. It's pretty exciting.
All right. Well, thanks, Missy, for coming on and talking about this. And I'm going to give everyone a little bit of a appetizer, a teaser of what you can expect when you watch these programs. You can also go to our YouTube channel, where all of the previous things that you've done, which are tremendous, even from last year. So many different things. What are some of the topics from last year that we have on our YouTube channel?
We last in the spring semester, we talked about social emotional learning, critical race theory, and DEI. We covered restorative justice, which is so insidious and just plaguing society. Then, of course, gender ideology and comprehensive sexuality education. There's so many resources available to, everything. I've dove deep into these topics. So you can head to mforlacademy.org, check out our resource library. There's a rabbit hole on every single one of them. If it's a topic that you really want to go deep on, then we've got lots of information available there. But one quick thing too, on the YouTube channel, I have an interview, a separate interview with Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath that I did release. It is really fun and interesting. Even my 18-year-old daughter found it fascinating. So I feel like that says something, because not too many 18-year-olds are going to be like, yeah, let me watch this educational content. But she loved it. So.
Oh, great. Well, head to our YouTube and I'm going to find that banner right now to put up there. And watch. There's so much content from moms that we're doing right now. It's something new that we're doing, and I'm really proud of all of that work. And I think now more than ever, when you see what's happening in New York, it's a good idea to brush up on some of the things that we maybe thought we had moved past: critical race theory, restorative justice, SEL, what it looks like in the classroom, how these topics are covered in the classroom so that you can identify it and make sure that that the schools are held accountable, and you're opting your kids out when you can, and when you can't, that you're contacting us and getting legal help so that you can be sure that you can opt your kids out of some of these divisive ideologies. But and if you're a mom on the go, you can listen. I listen to YouTube a lot. I can't even watch it, but it's in the background. I'm listening. So if you don't have a lot of time to go down the rabbit hole, you can listen to these lectures, and they really inform you. Like, you get the whole the background, how it looks, what's happening now, and then what you can do about it. And so I highly recommend that if you want to learn more, or if you know someone who's their eyes are just now being opened, and they're like, what's social emotional learning? I don't know what that is. Well, this is, rather than try to explain it to them, because it can be difficult, send them to Moms for Liberty, momsforliberty.org. And I'm putting up the website right here, m4lacademy.org. We'll have all of those resources, everything that you need. Missy and her team have worked very hard to put together this amazing website that's really pretty to look at and very easy to use. So I highly recommend it.
Getting more every day, every month. We are adding new topics. So, and if you guys, always want to ask if there's something that you're seeing or a topic that you've heard about that you would like to see us dive a little bit more into, please send me the information, reach out, let us know some topics that you'd like to learn more about it so we can add it to our list.
Great. Yeah, there's always something new popping up. And then there's different speakers, different experts to talk to, different moms, because you've talked to some of our Moms for Liberty members and chapter chairs, and their experience and how they have fought back and won, how they have conquered the system. And that's especially helpful for us, because it's nice to hear from one of our own. Here's what it looked like for me. Here's what I did. You can do this too. So,
and I see it also as, it's one thing to talk about the theoretical and have the idea of what to do, but actually seeing how it gets done in practical and implementing it on the ground, that is sometimes a little bit different. So knowing that the theoretical can translate to the actual is helpful for someone like me.
Oh, it's helpful for me. I think it's helpful for everyone, because otherwise people will say, well, the thing that never happened, that never happens. And then it does. And sometimes you could hear someone's story and think, oh, thank God that's not happening to me. And a few months later, it's happening to you or someone in your family, or your child brings home an assignment, and suddenly you're like, oh, now I know what this is. I remember I remember hearing about this. So that's happened to me
Yep.
many times. All right, Misty. Well, thank you for coming on. And I look forward to seeing you again in person very soon. And I hope that I'm going to put this up again. Everyone, just Thursday, November 13th, that's just around the corner. Make
Yep.
sure that if you are in the area that you attend this amazing opportunity, Rhetoric for the Republic, Ed Tech Success or Failure. And then on Monday, so that's just in a few days, on Monday, this will be live streaming, Wired and Watched 101, Ed Tech Data Collection and AI, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live streaming on all of our social media platforms and YouTube. So we'll have it here on X. You can watch it on X. Also, all of the other platforms. And if you can't make that, make sure you check it out on YouTube. So that's great. Missy, fun talking to you. It's Friday.
Always good talking to you.
All right. Bye now.
See ya.
Bye. In anticipation for the event, the M4L Academy event on Monday, I am airing this kind of a sneak peek. We're going to talk about ed tech. So this is an interview, the one that Misty had just talked about. It's on our YouTube channel, but I'm going to stream it live right now. And it's a fascinating conversation with Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath. So enjoy watching it. And it's from what Misty said, I've not seen it yet, so I'm going to be watching it right along with you. Very excited to do so. And there's going to be an M4L Academy more in-depth conversation on Monday right here on all Moms for Liberty social media platforms at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So please tune into that. But for now, you get to enjoy this interview.